After the Raptors shocked the NBA world by drafting Scottie Barnes ahead of Jalen Suggs, I don't think we're ever going to see a reality where these two aren't compared in their NBA careers. So, in today's video, we look at what they produced in preseason and showcase why the Raptors drafted Scottie Barnes over Jalen Suggs. Let's get into it. Welcome NBA and Raptors fans, this is Amateur Sports, your source for everything Raptors. We do Raptors news, mock trades, breakdowns, and so much more. So if you like the Raptors and you enjoy video content in this sort of style, make sure you are subscribed to this channel for more content. We post at least 4 Raptors-based videos every single week, and you can help us on our road to 7,000 subscribers. But today we are talking about Scottie Barnes and Jalen Suggs because the Raptors and the Orlando Magic have just finished off of their preseason. We got the first glimpse of these two players in their respective NBA teams because the Raptors, like I said in the intro, shocked the NBA world by drafting Scottie Barnes 4th overall in the 2021 NBA entry draft. All signs were pointing towards the Raptors taking Jalen Suggs with the selection, but much to the surprise of everybody, I'd say. I don't think anybody really saw this one coming, especially after reports emerged the day of that the Raptors had decided Jalen Suggs was their man. I don't think anybody was expecting Adam Silver, in other words, Scottie Barnes with the 4th overall pick. So the Raptors got their guy, and it was a bit of a complicated situation where fans wanted to trade down, and I was in the mindset that was the case. But, it ended up being the Raptors. That was their guy. There was no opportunity to trade down, and they were not going to sacrifice getting their guy. They identified this as their man for the future. Scottie Barnes is their man for the future, and my goodness, did they get him. And since that day, I think Raptors fans have fallen more in love with the player every single day, from what he brings on the court to what he brings to outside the court. The intangibles, the way he hypes up the crowd, the way he hypes up his teammates, the way he encourages his teammates, all these things beyond the sport of basketball that genuinely help your team succeed. And I think that the Raptors have definitely made the right choice so far based on what I've seen. Obviously, neither of them have actually played an NBA game, but they have played their summer league games. And they have played their preseason games. And as far as Scottie Barnes goes for all of those games, he has looked insanely impressive. I thought he looked very good in Summer League, and I thought he looked even better in preseason. Now, again, it is just preseason, so you got to take it for what it is. But I have been thoroughly impressed with what Scottie Barnes had. In his pre-draft assessment, I said that Scottie Barnes probably wasn't quite NBA ready after posing a 10-4-4 stat line for Florida State in his only year there. He won 6th Man of the Year in his conference. Not the best three-point percentage, but the field goal percentage was great, and he shot over 60% on the inside. So I like that about Scottie Barnes. And for Jalen Suggs, he looked very impressive with Gonzaga. This is one of the best college teams we've ever seen. Didn't quite end up winning in the national championship game, but that was their only loss of the season, where Jalen Suggs put up very impressive 15 points per game with a lot of other good stats. So that was the reason I think Raptors fans are looking at Suggs, because he looked a little bit more NBA ready. But Scottie Barnes has thoroughly surprised because he looks ready to take on the NBA. He's not going to be the one stuffing the stat line every night. But Scottie Barnes, it isn't just necessarily about the stats because of how impressive he is. His stats are good, but I think that it goes well beyond that. The way he influences game, the way he can start fast breaks, the way he can create space for his teammates, the way he can defend, all these things are great. But I think that the same can be said about Jalen Suggs as well. So let's get an actual comparison about their summer league performances, because Scottie Barnes, like I just mentioned, has been fantastic. I watched every single game. He has looked very good. The Orlando Magic, they haven't looked as good. And Jalen Suggs, in truth, he really hasn't looked that great. Take this for what it is. It is just preseason. But when we look at the stats, Scottie Barnes has posed about a 10-5-5 average, 9.8 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 5.6 assists on pretty good field goal percentage for him, 46.8%, and 1.2 steals, 1.2 blocks per game. That is a huge contrast to the way Jalen Suggs has played in preseason. Scottie Barnes played 5 games. Jalen Suggs only played 3 games, but they both had the same amount of minutes per game in these games. Jalen Suggs, on their hand, struggled a little bit compared to Scottie Barnes. 5 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 3 assists on only 27% shooting from the field. The steals and blocks, I can accept that for somebody like Jalen Suggs in just a very small sample size, but yeah, Not quite as good statistically from Jalen Suggs compared to Scottie Barnes. Now, there are a number of factors that could influence this. Number one, Jalen Suggs really hasn't had that healthy of an offseason, so maybe that has come into play a little bit. He actually didn't even feature in the final game of Orlando's preseason, so, maybe some things were lingering, or, maybe Scottie Barnes is just playing very well. Jalen Suggs has just had a slow start. Maybe the situation in Orlando isn't as good as it is in Toronto. There are a number of factors that could influence this. The bottom line for this graphic, I would say, is that this is just an objective graphic. It's just based on the statistics. And basketball goes well beyond the statistics. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably looking at this really, really upset with me right now, but I implore you to stick around to the end of the video because I'm very sure you'll see that it all kind of ties in. And I'm not crazy. Scottie Barnes has looked fantastic in preseason, but that all means nothing if he doesn't perform well in the NBA season. Jalen Suggs has not looked good in preseason, but that all changed if he looks really good in the NBA season. And fortunately for both players, there are 82 of those NBA games to show anything. Based on this specific graphic alone, based on the stats that we've seen in a small sample size of 5 games for Scottie Barnes and 3 games for Jalen Suggs, sure, Scottie Barnes looks a lot better, but it's not just about the preseason. It's not just about what we see in the stats there. I'm sure Jalen Suggs is going to have a very good NBA career, and a few months ago, I was enamored with this player. I wanted this to be our guy, and I was upset within the first hour of the draft pick that we took Scottie Barnes. I eventually settled down. I came around to it just like every other Raptors fan, but Jalen Suggs was my guy. I'm not going to pretend 2 months later that Jalen Suggs all of a sudden isn't a good player because he's not in the Raptors. The fact is, both of these players are allowed to succeed in the NBA. They're always going to be compared because people like me are going to find a very good narrative to build off of this. They got drafted 4th and 5th. The Raptors took Scottie Barnes over what was, for a lot of teams, a lock-in to take at the 4th overall position in Jalen Suggs. So we're going to compare them. We're going to create this narrative, but they can both succeed. One doesn't have to be so much better than the other. The reality is that both of these guys are very good players that were projected to go in the top 6 of the draft. Naturally, you would expect both of these players to have very successful NBA careers. And based on what I've seen from Scottie Barnes, he looks like he has settled in and is settling in very quickly to this Toronto Raptors team. And it looks like he is going to get off with a bang in the NBA. That's what all signs point to based on what we've seen in preseason. As it goes for Jalen Suggs, I think that it could be a little bit more of a slow start for him. He hasn't really found his game quite yet with the Orlando Magic, and maybe that's because Orlando isn't as good of a destination for him, but regardless, I think that Jalen Suggs is going to have a good season. I've been saying on this channel for a couple months now that Jalen Suggs is likely going to have the better rookie season than Scottie Barnes. That doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to have as good of a career, Scottie Barnes, as Jalen Suggs. It just, I felt like based on what I saw in their college days, Jalen Suggs is more NBA ready than Scottie Barnes, but we know the potential that Scottie Barnes has. However, I've been very surprised with how much Scottie Barnes looked like he is NBA ready, how much better he looks now than he did in college. So I think that both of these players are going to be quite good in their rookie season, but just solely based off of preseason, it looks like Scottie Barnes has definitely settled in a lot better, and Jalen Suggs needs to put some work in to get his game back because he is a talented player. He is the guy that most of us wanted on this team, so let's not pretend like Jalen Suggs is all of a sudden going to turn into some bust just because he had a pretty poor preseason in just 3 games. He shot very poorly in those games, and it's just a very small sample size. If Scottie Barnes had done this, if we flip this, I'm just thinking about it now, if we flip this and Scottie Barnes had the poor preseason and Jalen Suggs had the good preseason, I think that news outlets would be all over this. Oh my goodness, why did we take Scottie Barnes? But even if that was the case, it's not just about the stats. The Raptors, the front office, the coaches, the management, whoever, have identified that Scottie Barnes is the player for the future on this franchise, regardless of any sort of stats, anything like that. The Raptors identified that they want to build around this type of player, 6'8", 6'9", with the 7'1", 7'2" plus wingspan, and build a team of that, create a positionless game. And Scottie Barnes is a player who has that size, can get rebounds, and can get a ton of assists. He's a very good playmaker. He's a very smart playmaker. He's very intelligent. His decision-making has been very good. He knows his limits on offense. He's not like a sharpshooter, so he's not shooting a lot. He's taking 1 or 2 threes a game, and He hasn't hit one yet, but the form looks good. The form looks good, and it's not like he's missing by much. I think once a couple start to fall, he'll get in rhythm, and I think he can be around like a 30% three-point shooter over the first couple of seasons in NBA career. But I expect that to grow. I definitely expect that to grow as he gets more involved with the team and as he develops that, because he's hungry to work on these parts of his game. Jalen Suggs doesn't need as much of that development. He just needs a little bit more fine-tuning, evidently, based on what we've seen so far. So both of these players are going to be successful. The Raptors wanted Scottie Barnes. They wanted that type of player, and they felt like that was the best type of player that they could nurture and bring to the next level and help take the team to the next level. They felt like Scottie Barnes was that person who could really spearhead this next movement in the franchise history of the Toronto Raptors. Kyle Lowry's gone. We're in a new era, and they wanted Scottie Barnes to lead that era. But for Jalen Suggs, they didn't quite think he could fit that. Would we have also been happy with Jalen Suggs? Yeah, I think so. But the Raptors have identified that Scottie Barnes is the man for this team. So based off preseason, I'm liking this pick, but it's not really about preseason. What it's about is the Raptors picking their guy. And this is clearly the perfect player that fits into the type of team that we are currently trying to build. So that is why the Raptors have selected Scottie Barnes over Jalen Suggs. It is not about the preseason. Is it a good tell of what's to come? Potentially, but time will tell on that. That's a later video. But for the now, just understand that it's just a very small sample size and it's just preseason, but I think it's very easy, and I think it is good for Raptors fans to be excited about what we've seen from Scottie Barnes, because everything looks promising, and again, he looks better and better every single day. So what have you guys made of the preseason performances of Scottie Barnes and Jalen Suggs? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and try not to get too upset. But that wraps it up for me for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. I mean, if you're still here watching, you clearly did enjoy. Let's get to 250 likes on this video. Please help us get there. And if you want, you can subscribe to this channel for the 4+ Raptor videos that we are putting out a week. I love making the content. Thank you guys so much for supporting. On the screen, you can check out our other channels. Amateur TV is our vlog channel, where I was at the Raptors game on Monday and the Canada game on Wednesday. I vlogged for both of those. Some great content there you can check out. And Amateur Clips, our Twitch highlight channel, where we do a post-game show, plus we do some highlight reactions and other stuff concerning the Raptors. Make sure you guys subscribe to those. We'll see you again next time for another video.